ASLers, more specifically the SKers. We're going to cover some scenario analysis of an SK scenario. I've done a couple of the ASL ones recently, and I don't really want to leave the SK guys out. It's been about probably a year since I've technically made an SK scenario, maybe. So this, again, on the same adage, I guess, of my ASL videos, you want to take a look when we're looking at our scenario card. You want to take a look at the scenario card and see if it can give you any clues of what strategies you might want to try to employ. Now, again, because ASL is kind of abstract game, you might have some radical things that you have to do. Skulking is one of them. I mean, obviously, if you're defending a crossroads, you're probably not going to vacate the building for 15 seconds and then come back in 15 seconds later and, oh my God, the enemy can't fire at me. That's the game, but it's not reality. So that sort of semblance of game reality is what we're going to go over today. And specifically, this is going to be drawn from a scenario from the ASL Worlds SK 22 tournament that I put on last year. Number of players, I think a couple guys were involved in that. And Dmitry Klukov was the winner on that one, if you guys remember that. If not, go back and check out some of those videos of his road to victory. This will be on one of them, but that will be the full gameplay. I'm simply going to expand on one of my concepts that I touched upon during that replay. And I'm just kind of going to go through the first steps to see how a theoretical example would occur and how it possibly could help you, although kind of abstract. So scenario question is Off to Oslo. Scenario S83. It is in the bonus pack number 2. Solid scenarios in most all the SK kits. I got to be honest with you, at least the official releases. I really haven't played too many unofficial releases. So, but what I've experienced with the SK scenarios, running through the guys or playing them myself, is that they're quite enjoyable. And so if you're an ASL kind of indoctrinee, there's no reason why you shouldn't pick up the SK kits first. If you're hesitant on wanting to have to get stuck in some obscure rules discussions, and they will be obscure. As a matter of fact, I'm going through one with bridges. I mean, for God's sake, I mean, how difficult could a bridge be? But it could be when there's 4 or 5 paragraphs trying to describe a bridge. You know, whatever. SK kind of does away with a lot of that crap. No bridges in SK, so you don't have to worry about that. So, again, they're cheap, right? You can buy full sets that are on eBay, that are on Facebook Marketplace, ASL, BST, and pick up a full kit, the full array, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe like a bonus pack or 2. The bonus packs are super cheap from MMP or any of your favorite distributors. I personally use Ritterkrieg like 99% of the time. But the only thing I purchased from MMP directly is just SK4. And, but, you know, whatever. So let's get to it. Off to Oslo. The engagement is between the Norwegians, obviously, because it's an Oslo one. Probably not Oslo, but it's involving the Norwegians, which is an Axis or Allied minor, which they're not the best troops on the world planet, but they can still break units. And the Germans, of course. ELR for the Germans is 3. Let's look at the scenario card. Let me just pop to it. All right, here we are at the scenario. They've set it up already. The objective, again, we always have to determine what our plan might be based upon the objectives. Basically, provided they control all buildings on board M, which is the bottom building, of which there are 3. Shouldn't be a problem, right? But that's another thing that we're going to discuss. They need to control all these boards, of which there are 3. Then the Germans win immediately when both checkpoints, see scenario special rule, are eliminated. So you go over there. Essentially, you go over there, you blow them up with the DC, or like you can have a unit do something. But that's not the purpose of this particular video. The roadblocks are essentially designated for the checkpoints. That's where each group has a demo charge. The beginning group has a demo charge, 2 demo charges, geez. And the entering group has a single demo charge. Matter of fact, because both group, the initial group has 2 demo charges, might actually make my obscure strategy a little more, let's say, tasty or less bitter. The Germans, this is a reinforcement group that comes on what turn? Turn 3, so the beginning of turn 3. So the Norwegian player has 2 turns on which to move their units. So their reinforcements, 4 squads and 3 half squads and LMG and 8-1 leader, as you can see, come on turn 1. So after the Germans' first turn, they come on, and they essentially going to enter various positions that you want to take in this city. There are no wheat fields in this one, so if you are playing with live boards, you'll see wheat fields on this top board. With Vassal, of course, you can remove those. So bear in mind that when you play this live, wheat fields do not exist in this scenario based upon the rules. So they're both reinforcement groups are fairly compatible in number of units. Obviously, the Germans exceed the range, but as you see, if you're defending in this little village, the only units at range that you're going to be concerned with are going to be units that are probably down in this area. The Germans will probably come on here and occupy these locations, which is going to be less than, 3 to 5 hexes, from the objective. So they'll be coming in here, shooting very close range, and dealing with the Norwegians that way. Again, these are not roadblocks. They're by scenario special rules. They are the checkpoints. I think they're +1 TEM. So will you put a guy in there? It's not too much with the German firepower, but that's neither here nor there. Let's assume the top guys are going to have a good slugfest. The roadblock, obviously, right? The secondary roadblock over here on the side, as you can see on the left hand or the right hand side over here, for these units coming on, might be difficult to get to, right? What do you have here? You've got nothing but open ground in this area. So if these units are coming from the left hand side, and they want to get over here, that's about 5 or 6 hexes of movement, of which they will come on turn 3. And if they want to get over there, they have to pretty much hightail it the entire time. They could possibly get behind the hedge over here, but there's still 2 hexes. And even if you have 4-3-6s or 4-3-7s, what's that range? Let's say you put a couple guys here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's within range. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Even the roadblock. And the LMG has got that same range. So therefore, they'd have to come out and about to get to their destination. The LMG could shoot at super long range. But so these units here most likely are going to focus on this group. And then therefore, planning as the German, here, these guys got to capture these 3 buildings. And so since they're on that side, you might as well, continue to go up to the right-hand side. So they could reinforce the middle. I don't really think that's going to be necessary. They will probably take up positions after going through the woods along the hedgerow, use their superior range to kind of suppress a couple units while a couple other units try to go to the roadblock. But that's just the gist of how you try to perceive how the scenario is going to go. But this discussion is going to be focused on scenario special rule number 2. And it did not come into play during this replay, but we are going to make it. We're going to force that scenario special rule to come into play. Say, Stu, what the hell's the scenario special rule? All right. So it says, if a German unit sets up in a runway hex containing a Norwegian unit. Now, the German unit must set up his units on the runway. As you see here, Dmitry had set his units up on these particular locations on the runway. So these units are probably going to mop up these buildings, and these guys are going to plow through, right? They're green units. The Germans move first, right? And this is the important part, the timing of activities. The very specific timing of activities is extremely critical in this one. So, what will you typically see given this generic setup? Let's just consider this a normal setup, right? You know, a couple half squads in those buildings forcing the Americans or the Germans to come, at least attack, maybe prep fire. If the Germans prep fire, what are they not doing? They're not moving. Will they have time to get to our location over here? Maybe, maybe not. But if they don't prep fire, they're going to get shot at. And the airfield has a terrain effect modifier of -1, even in SK. This is a new overlay for SK, and the overlays are a new concept for the SK field. And therefore, what it does is it changes one of the changes an area. You see, most of this area does not have hex designations. That's part of the overlay. So, and it doesn't reflect those on through Vassal. So most overlays are pretty small. This is a fairly decent size overlay. Won't get into how to apply it, but again, the basic rule: Germans will set up on the runway. And let's look up scenario special rule 2 again. If a German unit sets up at a runway hex containing a Norwegian unit, a melee counter is placed on top of the stack. All units therein are immediately in melee. So what does that mean upon setup? So let's say if this unit were right here, and the German unit placed that unit in that location, those units would immediately be, let me see if I've got this right. Where's the melee guy? Right here. Not in close combat, but in melee. So what does that mean? That means the German unit can't do anything until the close combat phase. And let's say if this were the case, these units wanted to fire upon the melee, then both of those units would be affected by that fire. So that's what we're going to deal with. That's what we're going to say. Can we take advantage of that? Is there something that the Norwegian could do? Because if the Norwegian were here, or wherever this unit was, and let's say these guys going to prep fire 12 firepower, probably going to blast this unit here, right? You might have the 9-1 leader here in the back, fire 6 even on this unit here. Again, looking at your charts, a 6 even is going to yield a normal morale check on a roll of 7. It will pin the unit on a, well, it would generate a pin task check on a roll of 8 from the 9-1 leader. So if this unit here is pinned and this unit over here is broken, we've got one guy here that can fire, and these guys might also fire, or might just assault move or whatever. That's only 2 firepower, and you could route the Y7. So these guys might get tagged early, and if they get bad morale checks, if they both break, right, he breaks and he breaks, then there's not really a lot. If this unit fired and this fired, say he fired, remember 2 6 6 up 1 6 evens, those are pretty good shots. We have 3 units that can move up into these positions, and they can double time 1 2 3 4 5 6. You know, the 2 I think the 4. You know, let's just say they get into those positions. You know, it's going to be a bad day for this unit here. He's going to have to low crawl, yeah, because otherwise he'll take interdiction. He's only got a 5 morale. So that's kind of what you're looking at. You're looking at, and let's just say this unit over here breaks for whatever reason, right? Or gets pinned. And then one unit can, and then let's see, the leader gets in the general vicinity and can deal with that unit. You know, assault moves over here, or goes 2 3 4 5, just so he's out of line of sight or what have you. And then he's going to jump, and then he's going to force this unit to route, right? Again, if he routes up here, Actually, he can't route there. He'd have to route to Y5 and then essentially be stuck in these woods. And then he's not going to rally, right? Look at his morale. Is this unit going to rally by himself? No. And are you going to prioritize that unit to rally? Again, this is all what you need to think about when you're setting up a unit. Your leaders are up in here. When these units are breaking here, well, unfortunately, if this unit breaks here, if this 247 wasn't there, let's say they came over here, he'd have to route that way, and then he'd have to route back. But if you don't penetrate that way, if you go down the road this way, he'd have to route over here. Essentially, not really towards the objectives. And the Germans are in position at this location, even after advancing right here, they could fire the entire way down this road where the Allies are coming on. So that's essentially German turn one. You know, lots of different things can happen here. Guys are probably going to be breaking. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they get lucky. Whatever. But as the case may be, let's flip these back over. You know, that's the essentially general gist. The Norwegians are going to get pounded early. Not all of them are going to break, but they're going to be engaged, and then the Germans are going to move up the road. And this isn't even double timing. Let's say this leader didn't even move at all or fire at all. Everyone else fired, but the leader didn't fire, and he double times. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 advance, and you can get back here. Well, he's essentially in the village already. So envision that as a possible scenario for the Germans to be at. This is the worst case scenario with the Germans this far. But even on this road with the big LMGs, you know, that's only moving 1 hex. They've got coverage down the road now. Okay. And I don't think these checkpoints, yeah, it looks like it's an inherent LOS obstacle. And so it might actually be an obstacle. So that helps the Allies out a little bit. But let's use scenario special rule 2. If the Germans set up in a runaway hex. So for us to make sure, again, what does the melee do? It freezes the German. That German can't move, can't fire, can't advance, can't do shit. Turn 1. How do we maximize? Can we even deal with that? Why put guys here? Let's say we put these guys here. The Germans just set up right here, right? Set up around them and blast the living shit out of these guys. Right? These are all going to be -1 modifiers because of the terrain that you'll learn in the bonus kit. All these guys will get broken. All of them will die. Well, that doesn't do very good because none of the Germans chose to be in close combat. Why would you be in close combat when you have so many units? I mean, these are all the units the Germans get. I mean, they have a number of units, and so they could just take their shots as they wish. You know, I'm going to split this guy up. Let's go 6 firepower on this guy, and then 8 firepower here. You know, we'll go 12 here, 12 here, and that should be enough to obliterate these guys. So what do the Norwegians have left? 2.5 squads. Who cares? These guys will definitely run through those squads. Now, again, if you had the LMG set up over here, you might say, okay, maybe the Germans, if they prep fire, they'll be stuck on the runway, which is another possibility. If they're stuck on the runway, then we can fire, you know, 4-1 on a German stack. You know, this guy could fire 4-1 on a German stack. So that's a possibility. And this guy might be over here, point blank, onto those German units as well. So that's a distinct possibility. But let's go to the extreme. How do we make it? Because let's say these guys fire here, and this unit moves this way and double times, and he ends up over here. And this guy says, I'm not going to fire because they all got blasted. I'm going to double time and run over here. Are you going to fire at those units over here? Because the Axis are just going to advance off anyway. Excuse me. So that might be a possibility. So how can we minimize German movement? If that's what you want to do, you can minimize German movement on turn 1. Essentially, this is a 5.5 turn scenario. The Germans get 6 turns of actions, but you as the Norwegian player with Scenario Special Rule 2 can take away the entire turn 1. Say, Stu, how do you do that? Well, the only way we can guarantee that is to make sure that most, if not all, the Germans are in melee on turn 1. How do we make sure that occurs? How many hexes of the runway, because they have to set up on the runway, we know where they're setting up. How many hexes can we guarantee to occupy to force the Germans to be in melee? Okay, there won't be any ambush. There's no ambush. So you are going to get a roll as the Norwegian, and your green status will have nothing to do with it, right? You won't have to worry about ELR failure. You won't have to worry about breaking on turn 1, etc., etc. How do we maximize our efficiency on turn 1? So my perspective is, let's put everybody we can, again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hexes. How many guys do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. Say, Stu, those leaders, if they get jumped in melee, they're going to get trounced. Yeah, you are absolutely right. But what do? They force the Germans to try to determine what close combat odds he has the best. Does he want to take 4-1, 8-1, 12-1 against the leaders? Do you need to? Right? And then how do we arrange the light machine guns? How do we arrange the 4.37s? So this is my perspective is, let's say we put these units here, right? And then we give this guy an LMG and that guy an LMG. Where are the Germans going to set up? Well, they're only going to set up, because they have to, on top of the Allied units, right? Because they don't want to get shot by them. Maybe they don't want to set all the Allied units, but if they don't, they'd have to chance a shot on one of the Allied units. Let's say, well, we're not going to jump to 227. Let's say we're going to be over here. We're going to double stack this guy. This guy's going to triple stack this guy, and this guy's going to triple stack this guy. All right? So all of these guys are melee. They can do nothing. They're all going to be in melee. Let's clone this. All right. So everyone's in melee. They don't get to shoot. Who gets to shoot? R227. What's he going to do? He's going to shoot the biggest stack he can get. This will be a 4-1 right here. 12 is not going to give us jack shit. So, okay, let's go dice bot. This will be like a 5. 10. So let's say we roll 7. 2-1, 7, 6 on the 2 chart. Pin task check. So, pin task check isn't great, but what does it do? Squad takes a pin task check. He passes on a 7. He fails on an 8. If this unit gets pinned, then he's going to be 1-2 against this green unit, and the green unit will be 1-1. The green unit, during the first melee, will have a good chance of, not being killed by the German unit. So, if the German unit can't kill that unit on that turn, and let's say a couple other guys get freed, we win or lose here and there, the 227, guess what? Gets to prep fire next turn, because it'll be the Norwegian turn. And he'll do the same thing. Blast another hex. Everything, 2 hexes. This is point blank. This is 2-1. This is 4-1, right? This is 1-1. This is 1-. He can target all the hexes from that location. So this unit, 1-1, is nothing to spit at, right? That's a 6 on the 1 chart. Barely missed a pin task. He only needs pins to minimize the Germans' effectiveness in close combat. So, say, Stu, what about the leaders? Yeah, the leaders really aren't doing a lot, right? They're jumping those guys in close combat really aren't going to do too much. It might, if you jump into close combat here with these units to do a 5-1. That's where I'd want to go, and then the other one I'd move down here to jump into melee with that to be a 5-4, actually make it a 1-2 for the Germans. But once the Germans, like, say, clear this guy out and clear this guy out, now they're going to have heavy firepower, and then it'll be the same thing as if the 227, right? They'll choose a stack, they'll blast it. Unfortunately, the Germans will get affected as well. So the Germans will have to make a decision. Do I blast my own guys or just keep moving on and let those guys fight it out in melee? If he lets them fight it out in melee, let's see, these guys are cleared. Select them all, and they come up here. They go to their look. Why didn't it pick up melee? It's really weird. So these guys were eliminated, and those guys get cleared, and everybody else is in melee still. Well, what did you just do? One, you delayed them turn 1. Right? You delayed their movement on turn 1, which means your guys come on. Turn 1, these guys are coming on. So the Germans aren't doing anything. Turn 1, these guys come here, and I love that glitch in ASL or in Valsal. So anyway, they occupy here, and turn 2, the Germans move to here because we delayed them on turn 1. Now, they probably can't see anything. You know, at this point, these guys can possibly move over here on turn 2. Let's just say theoretically, right? And take up a position, a full force over here to defend against the Germans. Do they want to do that? That's based on your plan. But at least you know, I really don't like that happening there. But at least you'll know they'll be able to make it in a town unscathed, right? Because they're going to be in melee. And this is a turn 2 movement. By that time, these guys are already going to have a full free movement into the town, right? So that's what we're looking at. So you're going to have some successes here as the Norwegians. So I don't care how badly you roll. Somebody's going to get at least a casual reduction, kill some of the 247s they have because, I mean, 1-to-1, I mean, he's got to stack his 247 somewhere, right? He's got to stack these 247 somewhere. You're probably going to kill a squad and a half, minimum. And if you get to tie these guys up in close combat for more than one turn, you've just delayed their effectiveness in getting to the roadblock. Remember, the guys that are coming on turn 3 will take longer to get to the roadblock, and it's very hazardous. That's all open ground. That's pretty disastrous. I mean, you just line these 437s up here, right? We line these bad boys up here. The 22, let's just say the 227s. Maybe send the 227s up to here, you know, on the edge or over here, or just wherever, right? Block here. Who cares? You're blocking here so the Germans can't occupy those positions to stage, right? The Germans need to stage if they are moving, and maybe even, I probably wouldn't stack my units simply because you don't want them all broken. But say you got something like this. Say this was your plan as the Allies. These German units, or these green units might be able to get here. Maybe, maybe not. You know, let's just say they possibly can because these guys move over on this side because they have to go to this objective. And then over here, they get to this position. Now these are just blocking the Germans from going over here. Do they need a lot of firepower to break them? No, because you're doing the same firepower you're doing down here. They're going to be moving. If they assault move, it'll be 2-1, just like it is down here. Right? Those aren't terrible charts. Right? So he's going to be shot at the entire time he's going over there. And so if 2 guys get shot at, right, that only leaves essentially 4 squad equivalents to take the town. Well, the Allies already have 4.5 squads in the town. So this is what we're looking at. This is how we're planning the game out. But let's simply just do another setup. Again, another setup that I would contemplate is to maximize your firepower. And we're just gonna throw these on it because I don't want to drag this out too late. You can run through a number of situations. I think the Allies set up first. So my thoughts are, well, probably put this guy here, or maybe I'd probably put my strongest guys near the top. I'm so glad that's such a glitch. 437 up here, 437 here. and probably a 437 here. So if the 437 gets freed here, he could fire full firepower anywhere here. This unit maybe go down here so he could fire full firepower at any of those locations. Probably put all those guys in the middle. And then we'll put a 227 here, 227 here, because now he's in full range of most of these units. Actually, we can put the 337 there, 437 there. Let's just say a 227 here. Let's go with a leader here and a leader here. Just on either ends, doesn't really matter. Or maybe both leaders down here, right? Whatever you want to do, just pick a scenario. But who's getting the LMGs? I would give them to the leader. Why would I do that? Why would you do that, Stu? The half firepower. Yeah, it's still a 1-1. And what do we have before? 1-1s aren't too bad. You roll a 5, it's a normal morale check. Right? So at least these guys are going to get... you're going to empower them with firepower. If you put them in a stack to make sure they have use the LMG full firepower, now the Germans have an opening. So let's just put him here. Right? And that's our setup as the Norwegians. This is just a hypothetical setup. So how are we going to attack this as the Germans? Well, let's just go, I want to do 2-1 on all the 227s to eliminate them. And let's go 3-2 on the full squads. Actually, this one will be... one of them is going to be a 1-1. This got to be a 3-2. Right? And then the LMGs is just split up. Doesn't really matter too much. Let's give the demos to the leaders. Now, do you see the quandary that the Germans have? If we go 3-2 and we don't attack the leaders, we don't have enough units. So if you give the leaders the LMGs, they get to fire. They get to fire. And let's guess what? If these units break, where are they going to route? You're going to fire units in the center, so if they break, they can't route this way because it's adjacent to these guys. And if he breaks here, he can't route down here. So you could just eliminate units by shooting them in the middle. So he has to occupy the leaders. Somebody's got to take the leaders on. So therefore, it minimizes our... let's put our leaders here with our LMG units just for the hell of it. Let's put him over here just so he's closest to the objective. Right? So this is a theoretical setup that you're forcing the Germans into. Let's get closer. Can we get one more? Yeah, this is the theoretical setup that the Germans are in. Right? They have to occupy the leaders' axes because otherwise, what happens? German turn 1 happens, rally phase, nothing happens. Prep fire, nothing happens. Movement, nothing. Defensive fire, well, if they're not occupied, if these guys are not occupied, they get defensive fire. Because remember, these are all melees. Thank you, Mr. Melee. These are all melees. Clone. On top. There we go. So I'm going to close them down real quick. All right. So if these guys are within any of the other hexes, you've got 2 leaders that could shoot in any of the melees. In defensive fire, right? They get to fire, pop, pop, no effects, right? But then they get prep fire next turn. And let's say some of these hexes clear out. Those hexes, let's say the Germans succeed here. So that one's gone. Guess what? Guess where we're going to fire? Let's say these guys are in these hexes, right? Guess where we're going to fire? We're going to target this unit. Infantry fire table. Let's break that gun, and that's a result. That'll be what's that be? 1 morale check. He passes. Okay, good for him. Then he fires back, probably breaks one of our guys, or he just moves on. If he moves on, he's going to be attacked again. Right, and well, defensive fire phase, you'll get to choose a target, and then prep fire phase, you know, some more melees might resolve. But let's go through it. So again, as you see, let's just do a 3-2. Let's do a 3. Let's do that perception. Let's do a 3-2 here, and a 3-2 here, and a 1-1 here. All right. Let's just do this example. Say the Germans, I want to maximize the casualties, and then we'll deal with the leaders later. All right. So again, let's take our first shots. Nothing happens in all the German turn 1 until the defensive fire phase. So who should we fire? I will probably, to maximize possible damage, I would fire point blank with the LMG to maximize our firepower. So it's going to be a 2 firepower. This is 3 to 2. This is 3 to 1. I would probably fire into the 3. Well, 3-2 is not horrible. I'd probably fire at the leader, to be honest with you. I would try to take his leaders out, because if his leaders are gone, then he's stuck. But let's say we don't. Let's just say we're going for units. And I would choose the LMG with this stack over that stack simply because the units are more valuable. All right. Remember, we have a prep fire as well. We'll have a prep fire, so we'll get another attack. We get 2 attacks as the Norwegians. Let's fire here at 2 -1. That'll be a 5. That'll be a pin task check. 777. That's how we're going to do it. 777. All right. Both those guys are pinned, and our guy's okay. Okay. May not lead to anything, but that's what we did. This guy here is going to fire adjacent. That'd be 2 -1. 6. That's a no effect. Okay. Now, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Now we go to melee. Let's start left to right. This melee here, these guys are half firepower. That's going to be a 3 to 2 against our Norwegian unit. Remember, all of our Norwegian units will get return fire. All of them. If any of the squads that happens to get a kill result or something like that, that gets lucky and gets a kill result, then the Germans are going to be hard up if they move or for other melee units that are in the area. That's the whole concept. So 3 to 2 against that unit there. Gentlemen, what do we need for a 3 to 2? This should be an easy one. Scrolls right off your head. 1 to 1 is a 5. Everything on either side of that just increases or decreases by 1. So 1 to 1 is a 5. 3 to 2 is a 6. Here we go. Close combat. 7. Misses. Okay. Now we get to attack. Are we going to attack at 1 to 3? Which would be a 3. A 1 to 2 against the big squad, or a 1 to 1 against the little squad. 1 to 2, 1 to 1. You roll 1 to 2. If you get any roll a 4, there'll be a casualty reduction, and then you might actually go by random. You do go by random selection. You might actually select the half squad anyway. So in that scenario, because one of them, if you roll a 4, you're only going to get the half squad anyway. I would rather target the half squad directly to make it a 5 and improve my chances by how much? Let's go look at my dice probabilities. Okay. If we've got a 4, it's a 16% chance. If we roll a 5, that's a 27% chance. Almost a 28% chance of killing the half squad. Previously, if we rolled the 4, that'd be a 16% chance, right? And therefore, half of that, the guy might actually be eliminated. So if you're only going to add 8 points to that, that's only 24.7. So you're better off just going for the thing, going for the half squad, in my opinion. Just kill the half squad. You want to slow them down. And again, 2 to 1 is not guaranteed. So let's go 1 to 1 half squad. No effect. That's in close combat. You've just frozen another squad for at least the time. Well, yeah, even if they get shot here, we'll talk to them about in a minute. So let's go 3 to 2 against this unit here. Close combat. 3 to 2, no effect. Should we go 2 to 1 or 1 to 1? I think we should go 2 to 1. We want to maximize casualties and maintain melee, right? You could go 1 to 2, but I would just go 2 to 1. Give yourself a 7. Let's take it. Or you can go either way. I'm just gonna go 2 to 1. 9, 10 misses. Those guys are melee. Here we've got a 5 to 2. That's a 2 to 1 with a -1. This will be an easy roll. 6, that will kill this unit. Guess what? We're a 1 to 3, which changed things down to 1 to 4, and we'll need a 3 for a result. Didn't get the result, we get eliminated. He is no longer in melee. Remember, this is German turn 1. Okay? German turn 1. Let's take the moves off. Let's go to here. 1 to 1 either side. Germans. Oof. And there's no infiltration in SK. Maybe there is. Maybe there is. Let's assume he rolls a 3. I'm not going to worry about the 2. And the allies, nothing. So the allies are going to be gone. And he's free from melee. Here, 2 to 1. That's a kill. Return fires, no effect. Here is going to be a 1 to 1 to a 1 to 2. 1 to 1, 1 to 2. No effect. Let's look at the infiltration. I'm going to see if there's a possible infiltration. SK4 rules. They might pop up here. Nope. Let's go to melee. Again, it's been a while since I've engaged in the SK rules section. Close combat is in section what? 3.8. Mark would be able to tell me exactly if there is infiltration. It's just been quite some time for me. 3.8 close combat. Raw face summary. Nope. Two is always a chance for success. Nope, nope. That's in close combat versus a vehicle. All right, infiltration. I don't really see it. I don't really see it. I'm going to say, let's do a search. Infiltration with your PDF on your downloaded files. Infiltration. No matches. Okay, assuming I spelled it correctly. So, no infiltration. Or at least they didn't use that term. So, don't get to run away with the last results. And so, no effects on that there. He's in melee, and these guys are here. Okay, that's the end of German turn 1. The Germans were successful in 3 hexes, which is probably going to be about average, to be honest with you. Let me see if that... Oh, okay, so it's probably going to be about average. So this is the beginning of Ally turn 1. Okay, let's see our guys move in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, advance. We're going to double time. 1, 2, 3. Let's just say they go here. 1, 2, 3. Technically, the leader can really stack with a ton of these dudes and make them haul ass. These guys can come 1, 2, 3, and then advance. This guy can go 1. Probably don't want to go that way. 1, 2, 3, and advance. Or double time for 5, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Advance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's probably just 6. And then you could advance from here, right? So we could plug him over here. This guy could advance here. 8 minus 1 can back up over here. Let's just say he had the LMG. Let's just say theoretically that's where we are. Maybe we took one of these guys over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then advance. Just say he moved on to the robot. That's where we are turn 1. All right. German 2 turn 2 comes. Again, he hasn't moved at all during turn 1. Turn 2 comes into play. Actually, the other thing we could do during our turn is we get to fire into those melees again. We can either fire on these units or fire into the melees. Which would you do? Since this is a leader, I would probably, and I'm rolling close combat, maybe I'll roll 1 minus 1 here because these guys will get defensive fire. Maybe I'll, again, roll 1 minus 1 there. This guy over here, the pin is gone. I might give my half squad a little bit better chance of survival. I might fire into this hex. All right. I think I'm going to do that. The 7-0 is going to fire into here at 2 - 1. Oh, that's a good roll. 3, 1 morale check. We may kill ourselves, but that's all right. We're going to we're going to go top down. 1, 2, 3. Pin. Okay. Break. And our guy is pinned. Okay. This guy's on top. All right. So that's what we have in there. That was pretty decent situation. That was probably almost perfect, right? So he fired, and did we get ready to fire? Yes, infantry fire table. That's another thing I hadn't thought about. Oh, actually, I don't think they get ready for. Yeah, they get ready to fire. Just to have firepower. So now we'll fire. Let's just say over here, or maybe yeah, we'll fire over there. Actually, if we fire into here, that'd be fine. These 4, 6, 7s are going to be brutal. Let's just fire at a 4, 6, 7, just for the hell of it. 1 - 1. No effect. Okay, this leader over here. If we're going to give our guy the best chance at all, we'll fire a 1 - 1 against this guy, just for the heck of it. No cower. It's a 5. Pin task check. He doesn't pin. All right, those guys are fired. Now they get the defensive fire. What are the Germans going to do? Are they going to fire into the melees to free their guys up? Maybe free their guys up. Again, they're still going to have to close combat these guys at the end. And if they break, if I fire into here and break my squad, those guys are dead. I'd have to. I can't even advance in there because it's not the Germans' turn. So if the Germans fire into any of the melees and break their guys instead of the Allies are going to have a good time. Because guess what? These guys are going to fire into the melees again next turn on defensive fire phase. So I would probably target the leaders in this case. And what does that do? It frees up your guys to have another melee shot. So we'll fire a leader over here. 4. That's a good shot. So 1 morale check. He passes. The other guy will fire down here. Oh, these Germans are really good. It's another 1 morale check. He will break. Maybe pass ELR, but he's out of it. And the leader up here, he's going to fall over here. Be a 6 - 2. That's going to be bad. The 2 morale check for our leader up here. He breaks. Okay. So at least the leaders did some fancy things in the beginning. And guess what? German turn 2 comes along. We have to route. So let's say we're going to low crawl because we don't be interdicted. We'll just low crawl up here. Okay. We just don't want to be interdicted. Actually, we can, this guy's going to route normally. He's going to go 1, take a morale check. He's fine. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then be done. This guy over here, he's going to do the same thing. 1, 2, 3. He gets pinned here. Again, the benefit of getting these leaders out of here, again, I wanted to hightail this guy out because is this German going to attack the leader or go to his objective? He might go to attack the leader, therefore delaying him from the objective. And since our leaders were not engaged in close combat, if these guys rally, because they're going to lose the DMs at the beginning of the turn, because we're going to go through the melee again right here real quick, and then we'll go through the leaders, okay? So melee here, this guy's broken. Guess what? I'm going to fire on the broken unit. Because once the other unit gets eliminated or broken, well, that's going to be a 1 firepower. Yeah, I'm going to fire on the broken unit because if it's a 1 to 4 - 2, I need a 5 to damage that broken unit. If it's a 1 to 2, I'll need a 4 to damage that unit. So I need a 5 to damage the squad over the half squad. Or I can go, yeah, that's probably the best. So we're going to go attack the squad. No effect. This pin hopefully will be gone. This will be a 1 to 1 with the Germans ensuing. Nothing happens. It stays in melee. This one here. Again, we're going to go 2 to 1. No effect. And he's going to go 3 to 2. That will eliminate that unit. Okay. And this one here is a 1-2. Got him. And they get to attack back. And they got, they casually reduced him on that one there. Okay. All right. That was, yeah, that was Allied. Now it's German turn 2. Because that was Allied turn 1. German turn 2 occurs. What happens? This guy gets to try to pick up a weapon. He's going to pick up each of those. 1, 2. Finds both these weapons. This is still a melee. These guys get to try and roll for morale checks. We need low. Left to right. No effect. We lose our DMs. Okay, no big deal. All right, so this is the beginning of German turn 2. Where are the Germans? Where are the Germans? They're still on the airfield. They're still on the airfield. They're nowhere near their objective. They're not in the woods. Some of the guys aren't broken. You know, how many guys are left from our side? One squad and 2 leaders. And we've got a leader of theirs and a squad. Is this a decent exchange? You might argue it's not. The 467 or the 437 is a 1-to-1. And then two squads for a leader. Squad is definitely worth a leader. Probably an 8-0, probably worth a squad and a half, in my opinion, for the 8-0. So essentially, we're a half squad behind. And guess what? German turn. We have a unit right here that could fire because he picked up the LMG. And it's going to be full firepower. Or we could toss the demo. Well, we won't be able to do anything with the demo charge, so it's irrelevant. So what are the Germans going to do? Maybe reinforce here. I would likely reinforce there probably with the half squad. And then our normal squads are probably going to move. One of this guy, probably this guy, is going to fire Jason. So let's prep fire. Fire 8. So that's a 6 on the 8. The 1 morale check. A morale check breaks him. Okay. So that is a break. This guy's a prep. So again, he's not moving on 2 turns. 2 turns this guy's been here. Now these other guys can do what they wish. Right? This guy's obviously going to route here, and then he's going to force the route, or, I mean, he may still have to deal with this. So what's going to happen? We're going to have to move these guys out. Let's just say we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say this guy goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say this guy goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say 5, 6, just so he has to route some other direction. And let's say this guy hangs around. Heck, at this point, we could fire into the melee, because if everybody breaks, we're jumping the melee anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So we're going to fire into the. No, we're not going to fire in melee. We're going to do a 2-to-1. So we're not going to fire into the melee. We're going to fire at this unit over here. If we break him again, he'll die. So it's a 2 - 1, no effect. Route phase comes, or advanced fire phase. Let's assume nothing happens to these guys. Route phase comes. Let's say we're going to go 2, 4. And this guy has to go back this way. All right, and then advanced phase. Now we're getting up to our positions of engaging the allies. Actually, it's probably an line of sight right there. But we'll do it anyway. And let's just say this guy occupies the building. Right? Because we need to control the building or occupy. Control all buildings, all right? So once we occupy this building, we control it. The single man counter won't be able to regain control. So at this point, all we have to do, this guy routes here. All we have to do is just move a multi-man counter in the building and be done with it. So he's going to move here to maximize that damage on that guy. He'll jump into the melee. So what do you have now? 1, 2, 3, 4 squads still in the airfield area. 2 squads moving up. Ally turn 2. Okay. We've got a couple rallies. Both these guys are DM'd. Let's go left to right. This guy will rally. Okay. And this guy's still DM. This guy will not rally, loses DM. Now we have a couple units up here. Let's assume the firing exchange. Maybe we skulk to hold back. Maybe we just to move a guy up here. He moves up here. Let's say he goes assault moves here, and then we'll advance move here so the Germans really don't get in a shot. Let's just say he skulks behind the hedge and then reoccupies the roadblock. This unit runs up here. Let's just assume that that's what we're doing. Let's assume this guy assault moves here, and advance moves over here, and he stays in the wooden building or stone building. Okay, that seems reasonable because they're on the defensive, right? So that was the Allied, or the so that was the German turn 2, is to move over that position, and then at the end here, I'm sorry, that was going to be the Allied turns. I'm stepping ahead. So we have a 2-to-1 here. And again, this guy can either go 1-to-1 against these guys, or essentially do a 1-to-2 minus. Ooh, that's going to be that. Now it'll be a 1-to-2 minus 2 against that unit. So he needed 6 to damage the squad here, whereas he would need a 5 to take care of these guys. So we're going to attack this one here. So it's a 2-to-1 against our half squad. That will eliminate him. And then at that point, he can say, okay, now I'm going to do whatever. If he goes 1-to-2 against these guys, he'll need a 4 for tie, but we're going to go against the broken unit. 5, that will just straight up eliminate the unit. Because it's a -2, makes it a 3 on the 1-to-2, which is an elimination. All right, so what are the casualties at this point? That was actually prolonged. A prolonged close combat. This is squad for squad, squad for squad, squad and a half for leader. We're even. We're even. Well, the Germans are the ones that need to occupy, but we're even. And actually, our LMG gets a defensive fire shot, or a prep fire shot in our movement turn coming up. So let's say we fire. We're going to fire on this guy because he's at a 2-1. No effect. And then let's say he fires back at 4-1. No effect. No effect. And then he's just gonna remain where he is, for whatever. And then during the German turn, this guy's got his low crawl away. Let's say he low crawls this way. So hopefully, maybe we can kind of get together over there. So this is the end of Norwegian turn 2. And that was German turn. That was German turn 1 here, 2 there. That was Norwegian turn 2. Now we're looking at German turn 3, and then the big boys will come on. I think they come on maybe this edge or something like that. But they're going to have some firepower. They're going to have some guys to deal with. But what do we just do? This is what we wanted to accomplish, is that the Germans have no force of any relative strength pressuring any of our units up here. We got in a position without fail, right? This guy could possibly rally because he wasn't fired upon. And he does. Guess what happens now? 1 minus 1, 1 minus 2 from that LMG. Both our LMGs and both our leaders are available. These guys aren't going to get out of the woods for free. You know, we'll have to occupy that. Probably blast this guy. And then these guys will move independently, you know, up the side. If the guy moves across here, we're going to fire on him, right? It's -1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, he goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And then this guy goes to this location here. And then advance fires on the broken unit. We don't care if the leaders are necessarily behind us. But what problems does that face later for the Germans? I mean, we don't have a lot of firepower up here, but let's say the Germans do make their way up here. And they ignore the leaders because we can't control these. Let's just say this guy gets eliminated. And let's say this guy's over here hiding. This guy starts going up here and then rejoins his guys. If he doesn't rejoin them, he's got to come over here and attack this guy. All right? These guys can't control the objectives of the building, so he just skedaddles and he makes his way. That's another turn or two. Easy. So now that's turn 4 or 5. So these guys get late to the party. Now what happens is these guys can start to move behind. And if any of these German units break, they will have to route to essentially probably non-cover. So at that point, any of the Germans that break late in the game will not have anywhere for them to route to. And again, we're in decent position here. The Germans come on the board. They start doing their thing, as all Germans do. They could just stack dudes up and start dealing out some punishment, right? That's what's going to happen. But that's okay. You know, we have some units left over and delay. No, we may be able to take them on. So, something to think about. I mean, you thought there was going to be massive slaughter. Essentially, it was an even exchange. Are you going to get that even exchange into the woods? No, it's all going to be +1. All of our guys are going to be 4 + 1, 2 + 1. All the fire on the airfield was a -1. That increases our fire, essentially increases our firepower by a little bit. It's better than that because you're reducing the die roll, which if you roll snake eyes, it's a 1. And a 1 on any chart is bad news. So that's what we're dealing with. Again, we just rolled the dice, and this is a simple example of what you have here. Maybe the Norwegians get luckier. Maybe they don't. Maybe the Germans get fully lucky and can annihilate them all. But at least you have that delay. At least you have that delay. And nothing's saying that the Germans aren't going to annihilate you on their way to the objective anyway. They might have a couple broken units, but again, those broken units are broken and not represented by dead units. Let's say this is what the Norwegians broke if we didn't occupy the field and they were all back here. These guys rally. Now these guys just occupy these, right, through movement. And then they join the fight later. So we don't lose anything at that point. But through close combat, we are guaranteed dice rolls to attempt to kill German units. Something to think about, people. I mean, that seems extreme. But we have 8 units. And there are 8 hexes on the airfield. And I know some of you hate close combat. And it's a bitch. You saw the snake eyes, the 12s I rolled in a couple instances here. But that's what we have to deal with. And guess what? If, let's say, one of our multi-man units was successful and he had assault moves into this building, now he's in the best terrain and the Germans have to fight, either prep fire on him or advance off that -1 terrain. Either way, they're getting a -1 shot because if they stay on there, it's going to be a 2 -1. If the assault moves over here, it'll be a 2 -1. Pick your poison. I'd probably go up here, it'd be a 1 -1. But -1, that's a 6 for a Pintas check. You know, not bad. Again, I didn't expect this exchange to come this way. I never ran through this one. Did we all get annihilated? Yeah, pretty much. But what was our job? To delay. If they're in the woods here, what's their job? To delay. They're not making it up here. You're not making it back to the positions here. You're defending in the woods and dying because the Germans have the range. You're not going anywhere, and you only have 3 movement factors as a green unit. Where do you think you're going? You're staying in the woods, and that's all. And you're delaying the Germans there. Why not give yourself a chance? Freeze the Germans on turn 1 so they can't move, and then try to maybe get some decent rolls. Maybe beat them in a couple close combats. You never know. We got lucky. We got lucky a couple of places, but that's all it takes. You know, I think freezing the Germans takes a turn away from them. It's great. I think it works out well. So that's all I have for you. Again, really obscure. I just wanted to go through the basic things here. I mean, obviously the movements on the top could be different. I hadn't even thought about that. The only thing I focused on is using scenario special rule number 2. And making sure that we can make effective use of it. And I'll let you define if this is effective or not. You know, some people might not think so. Some people say, hey, that's more than I would expect. This is actually more than what I expected. But maybe the loss of all of our units. Again, we have both of our leaders with both LMGs. That's, you know, 1 firepower out to 6x range. That's not shabby at all, considering this is what they're going to be firing through. You know, it's not that shabby. And again, once you break in that open ground, you're not going anywhere. You're really not going. There's not too many really key spots that you can rally to. So evaluate as you wish. Run through the same scenario. Do your own close combats. It's like a mini game within the game. See how often. Do it 3 or 4 times. I mean, it will essentially just roll in 30, 40 dice, and you'll have 3 different results. You know, and figure it out. You know, maybe it's a good choice, maybe not. Maybe split your guys up differently. Maybe give the LMGs to the 437s. I mean, who knows? If they get lucky, then they'll have 6 firepower coming out. You know, don't know. Give it to a green house squad. Maybe that will force the 467s to jump on the green units, those green house squads. Don't know. So, again, interesting perspective. Looking at your scenario special rules. Scenario special rule number 2, right? This bad boy right here. Say, why do they have that in the scenario? Again, why is that in the scenario? Maybe can we take advantage of that? Or immediately in melee, which means no move, no prep, no nothing, no defense fire. Nothing. German turn 1 is gone. Does not exist, and it flips it to the Norwegian side. If you succeed as a Norwegians, you now have the advantage on the Germans. You can now move and jump into close combat on these other guys. Very interesting sort of scenario. So take it for what you wish and go play it. Leave some comments on here after you play it. Say, hey, Stu, did it? Worked like a charm. Or say, hey, I got the Vassal log file. Upload the Vassal log file to the ASL Scenario Archive. And we'll pick it up then. I look for the log files there. There's like daily plays. So with that, gentlemen, now what time is it? It's time for you to go play some ASL. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.